Bruchim Habayim B'Shem Hashem, B'Shem Irgin Shir Terem. I would like to welcome everyone to tonight's shir from Rabbi Eytan Feiner, Shlita. I'd like to give a shekayach to Moshe Klein for sponsoring tonight's shir. Lili Nishmas, his father, Rabbi Yisrael, Ben Moshe Menachem, Zon Avracha, Yosef tonight, Vov Elul, Tenish Moshe, Tzurura, B'Tzara Chaim. I'd like to give a shekayach to Mr. and Mrs. Aaron Grenadier for the support for tonight's shir. Lili Nishmas, Aisha Masha, Basar Aaron, Allah Shalom, and Lili Nishmas, Yisrael, Yitzchak, Isaac, Ben Rabbi Yeshua, Olav Shalom. Voice-side, this is the final share of this season. Tomorrow night is the annual dinner. Hope to see all the men in Young Israel Avenue UK tomorrow night, 7 p.m. and help support our Botzes of Torah, Vegan Shir Torah worldwide throughout the year. Tonight we have the cover to have with us Rabbi Eytan Feiner, Shlita, the Rav of Kal Knesset Israel, to speak about the summer ending. Elul begins and keep Shteiging. It's my cover to call on Rabbi Feiner for tonight's share.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nehiyeh bidvaro. Shalom Avrocha, good evening, Yeshkoyach everyone for coming, a tremendous Yoshikoyach, Agadol Meyumka Deliba, Rabbi Bol, Rabbi Deutsch, everyone putting this together. It's a tremendous schus and a cover to be Mishtatef, Lahagdo Torah Ladira, and a Hakor Satov to the generous sponsors this evening, the schus HaTorah, Befrat the schus of Torah, Talmud Torah Derabim should contribute to the Elias and Neshama of those Heilig and Neshamas Aleim HaSholom in the Lichtig Ganein and Shamayla Mechayel Achayel La'ela Ula'ela. The best way, in fact, to perpetuate an Elias and Neshama is if we turn to Rav Hunder's choice, our words in his Pachad Yitzchak, Igrus Uksavim, Igra Reish Mem Beis. Rav Yitzchak Hunder is writing a very powerful, poignant letter to a Talmud who had just recently lost his father. And Rav Hunder writes, we know the Welt says, Bro Kari Diavua. A son is the figurative leg of the father. Now, parenthetically, that's not a chazal. We have a lot of things that we erroneously are meyachis to chazal that are not chazals. I in the tshuva, Avnei Chevatzim and Chavtes, I in Rishul Ashkenazi, and Alpha Besa Kadmisa Deshmul Zira, a long listing of things like Dvar Mayotzim and Alev, Nechnosim El Alev, V'shachanti B'socham, B'sochol Onamar, Ella B'socham, B'sochol Achavayechad, a lengthy list of things that we mistakenly are meyachis to chazal, but in fact they are not chazals. On that list is Bro Kari Diavua. It is indeed a pidgam, a phrase that's cited by the Rishonim. Lamaisa, we do have the Lashon and Shas, Erev and Dafayin and Beis, Bro Yarsi Diavua. Bro Kari Diavua does appear more or less in Rashi, in Maseches Ksubis, Dav Tzadi Beis and Beis Ayin Tosis in Yevamis, Dav Gimel and Aleph as well. So we do have this concept of Bro Kari Diavua. The son is the figurative leg of the father, explains Rav Yitzchak Hunder so beautifully in his Pachad Yitzchak, Igrus Uksavim and Igur Reish Mem Beis. And why the choice metaphor of the leg bedafka? And Rav Hunder explains, quoting for us, that famous pasuk in the Navi Zechariah, Paragimel pasuk Zayim Nasati Ilcham Alichim Bein Ha'omnim Ha'ele. Tahainu, the stark contrast between Emistik and Tzadikim and the Malachim is that Malachim are characterized as being Hochem, as being Mir Omdim. Dahainu, the way the Malach was created, even the Heilige Malachim Michal, Gabriel, Avachule, the way the Eibishter made them, they remain stagnant. They keep up the status quo. The entirety of their existence, they are always the same way. The Eibishter fashioned them at the very outset. They're not growing, they're not steiging, they're not evolving. But in contradistinction to the Malachim, defined in a pejorative and a negative sense, so to speak, as nitzavim, as omdim, we have the tzaddikim, and they are branded the choice appellation of Hochem. They are malichim. Dahainu, they're on the move, they're on the go. They're always growing, they're always steiging. The idea of halicha, wherein is the koach halicha tomen, and it's manifest in the koach haraglayim. Dahainu, when you walk, so to speak, you are being margish, you're koach halicha, and therefore, a tzaddik is known as a holech. He's on the move, he's on the go. But what happens when a tzaddik leaves the world? We heard that the Divrei Torah tonight, Leiloi Nishmas, and Rav Elio Gutmacher writes in Sukkah Sholim, there's so much you could do. As an Aliyas and a Shom of an Iftar, and you could do tzedakah, you could take the Omid and be the Shliach Tzibur, and you could say Kaddish, and you could do mitzvahs. But the single greatest chus you could do is Talmud Torah B'frat, Talmud Torah Derabim. And how is that working? When the Niftar passes away, he no longer is described as a the way you die, that's it. Ad kan, we put up a nefesh, a matzeva, lo shenit savim. You remain stagnant. The way you went into Gan Eden, you can no longer learn Torah, you can't perform the mitzvahs. But if you leave over children, or if you leave over not biological children, Vatamidim, after all, we had it not that long ago, Parshas Rei, Perk Yudalit Pasuk Aleph, Bonim Atem LaHashem Elokechem. And what's that a reference to? That's the Makor, as Rashi says in Eschon and Perek Vav Pasuk Zayin. Vishinat Levanecha Elu Atamidim. Umenayin Shetamidim Kuyim Bonim Shenemar and Rei Yudalit Aleph Bonim Atem LaHashem Elokechem. So you have your biological offspring, or you have your Tamidim who are Kriyim Kibonim. And thus, even after 120, when a person passes on to the next world, and they're no longer defined as a holech, fakert. On the contrary, now they are what? They are an omei, they're an itza. But if you leave over the biological children, or you leave over the metaphorical children behind the Tamidim Akurim Kibonim, and their mamshich, ayadei, their limanat Torah, ayadei, their asiyas mitzvahs, bro kari dafua, azok dafuna, why dafka the leg? The leg represents the koach halicha. How you mamshich the koach halicha weiter? When a person goes on to the next world, he no longer is a holech, but you left over children, you left over the Tamidim, and they continue the limanat Torah, the asiyas mitzvahs. They thus are being mamshich weiter. They perpetuate the koach halicha. Hence, bro kare davua. The son is the leg who is mamshich the koach halicha weiter of the heligatati. Even though, yes, the Gemara tells us at the end of Brochus, the very last Amud Samachdala and Amud Aleph, that when you depart from someone, you should tell them what? Lech l'shalom. Yisro says to Moshe, Lech l'shalom halach v'tzliach. We find that Eli, the Kohen Gadol, says to Chana at the beginning of Shmuel Aleph and Perek Aleph, Lechi l'shalom. And what happens? She has Shmuel Hanavi. But David said to Avshalom mistakenly, Lech b'shalom halach v'nisle. Tahainu, as the Gra and the Marshan elders explain, Lech l'shalom is bestowing upon the one from whom you depart a bracha that he should continue to be Lech l'shalom. Continue the keep growing, keep steiging. Go towards shalom. What does it mean? Peace. No, it means in a more profound sense. I want you to keep growing and keep steiging. L'shalom, l'shleimus. You're always on the road to shleimus. You're departing from me. Lech l'shalom, lechi l'shalom. Keep steiging. But what do you say to the niftar when you depart from someone? That's it. We put up a matzeva. Lo shenitzavim. That's a nefesh. We tell them lech b'shalom. The way you ended your life, that's how you enter Gan Eden Shamayla. No more Liman Torah, no more Asiyas Mitzvahs. You can't produce anymore. Koach Halicha, that is Lech B'Shalom. In peace, not towards peace. You've already attained your final darga of Shleimus, wherever that fell out. But if you leave over the children, you leave over the biological offspring, or you leave over the Tamidim Akurim Kibonim, and they continue the learning, and they've ingrained within themselves that lesson, the chinuch lesson about the chashivas, the avos, the simchas hatayra, and they're continuing to learn, and they're being mamshich weiter, your koach halicha. Hence, what an appropriate choice metaphor, bra, kare de'avua, he is mamash, the leg of the tati, the son is the regel of the father, even when the father no longer has that regel, representative of the koach halicha, he leaves over the son, he leaves over the Talmud, and he's a mamshech, the koach halicha weiter. In a similar vein, Rabbi Eytan Feiner was authored well over 100 svarim. And the illustrious Talmid Chacham son, Rabbi Sharon Stern, Zechat Tzaddik Levracha, he has a Gevaldiga sefer called the Shon Limudim. On the top of Daf Kuf Aleph, he writes, quoting his father, and the Chayretz Kishmak, is it saying a little bit more than Rav Huna? Rav Huna Zatzal explained, Baruch Kare Davua, the Hainu is the leg, but literally Kare is not the leg, that's Loshen Regel. Kare is Loshen knee. What's the Loshen of the knee? All right, so Rabbi Eytan Stern quoting his renowned father, Rabbi Sharon Stern, the Mashgiach of Kamenetz. Abro Kare Davua, Kare is the knee. We know Malachim don't have knees, they don't have the koach of Kvitza. Dahainu, the regel represents the koach halicha going weiter in a horizontal plane. You continue walking step after step. But what's a knee? The kirayim, the knees, is the sibas hakvitza in the mensch. Dahainu, you're able to jump. Malachim don't have knees, they can't jump. Zokta Moshe and Stern. Avad bro kara davua yedei the liman atayr and the ma'isim of the son of the tamidim hakurin kibonim. Not only are you mamshech the koach halicha weiter, but you actually are perpetuating the koach of kvitza. The heilige tati can continue to jump and to go higher, not just to continue horizontally that koach halicha, but rather to continue steiging and growing and jumping. Midarge ledarge mechoyo lechoyo bro kare de'avua. Yes, we don't have the lashon erevin ayin amad beis bro yarse de'avua. Barashi and ksuvas sadi beis and taisus and yavamas daf gimel bro kare de'avua. It's geshmak gevaldik. It's not stam the leg, but it's the knees, the koach hakvitza. You continue learning and steiging, coming to the Heilige of Boston for Ergen Shirei Torah. Agivaldik, you're taking the koach halicha of your wonderful parents, grandparents, the Heilige relatives that already passed on to the Olam Emes, and Ayadei Yolim Torah. You're being mamshich their koach halicha fighter. No, even more than that. You're mamish ingraining within their aliyah a koach hakvitza to empower and enable them to be kofetz, to keep jumping midarga ledarga la'elo ula'elo and their lichtige gan eden shamayim. That is bra kare davua. Because man was put on this world to steig, to grow. In the biography of Rabbi Heilige Rosh Shlomo Freifeld, Zechat Tzaddik Levracha, when his close Talmud Ramendo Weinbach was on the boat decades ago, and he was heading to Eretz, he turned to his Rebbe and he said, Rebbe, I need one finer Musa Shmuz. Leave me with a powerful message. Azok to Shlomo Freifeld, I'll tell you all the Musa lessons of all the years. I'll encapsulate it in but one succinct message. I'll give it all to you. Arabaisai, if there's one word you need to hear for the rest of your life, Benogeya, pertaining to your avodas Hashem Yisborach, Zokta Shlomo Freifeld, I'll capture all of the Musa Shmuzin that I gave you with one word. Remendo, steig. That's all you need to do. Always growing, always steiging. A Jew is never idle, is never motionless. There was a Rav from Europe, came over decades ago after the war. He came over to the Midwest. And on his very first Sunday, he wanted to know, is his neighbor a Yid? Is his neighbor not a Yid? So he didn't want to ask his neighbor outright. Oh, by the way, Joe, are you Jewish? He said, Joe, tell me. It's Sunday morning. He went out there. He was rocking back and forth on the rocking chair. Midwest, nice oak wooden rocking chair. A beautiful sunny day. He says, tell me, Joe, what are you doing? He says, Rabbi, I'm doing nothing. He says, tell me, Joe, you must be, you're reading something, right? A book. He says, Rabbi, I'm not reading. You're watching? No, I'm not watching. I'm not reading. No newspaper, magazine. I'm doing nothing, Rabbi. Well, Joe, maybe you're thinking about something. After all, a meditating room, you got to be thinking about. He says, Rabbi, I ain't thinking about nothing. I'm just doing nothing. I'm just chilling. He says, that's how I knew he wasn't a Yid. Because a Yid is never idle, is never motionless. A Yid is never doing nothing. That's antithetical to what it means to be a Yid, to be a Holech. Zachariah Gimel Zayin Asodil Chamalichim Bein Omdem Eile. You don't want to be an Omed, you always be in a Holech. You want to be on the move, you want to be on the go. What's the first Nisayin of Avram Avinu? Let's flip back the pages to Parshas Lech Lecha. How fascinating. The third Parsha from the beginning is Lech Lecha. The third Parsha from the end, Vayelech. The only two Parshas that have encoded, encrypted in their name and their essence, the Koach Halicha Geshmak. We are, by the way, the Phineas Daiti Gerim in this world. We're not Toshavim. We're Gerim. We're on the move, on the go. Never get settled. How Geshmak? How do you form the word Ger? You take the third letter from the beginning of the Aleph base and you juxtapose it. You place it alongside the Reish, the third letter from the end of the Aleph base. Geshmak. What's the third parsha from the beginning of Chamisha Chumshei? Lech Lecha. What's the third parsha from the end of Chamisha Chumshei? Vayelech. Hazinu Zos HaBracha. The beginning, the end. That's what it is. A Ger in this world. Gimel Reish 3:3. Vayelech. Lech Lecha. Because the essence of a Yid is I'm always moving. I'm never settled. We're not comfortable in Golas, Borough Park, Flatbush, Gival, Lakewood, Moradik. Yes, we have Kedushas, Eretz Yisrael, Ayadei, the Liman HaTorah. That's the Marshaw and Brochas Tav Chesem Nal, the Klayakar and the Pasuk and Akev. That's the Gron and Dersel Yo and the Barn Parakal, Pasuk Yidro, Tzedek Kohe. And that was Kuf Tzadi, Zayin, and Tzidkas Tzadik, and Kumitz Mincha, Chelakalas, and Lamed, the Rogat Shover, Nazar, Safna Spanech, the Gan Rafa, all in Brochas Tav Chesem Nal. If you could create the Bechina Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, even outside Yisrael. But Rabbi say this is not Eretz Yisrael. This is Golos in Eretz Yisrael today without a base of Mikdash is Golos. We're never settled until we have a Mokum HaMikdash, until we have Yemos HaMashiach. We're always on the move, we're always on the go, and thus we turn Siyata D'Shmaya back to that third parsha. And yes, we all know Rashi and the Rabbeinu Yonah in the respective Perushim and Perkei Avos, Perkei Mishnah Gimel. Asor Nisyonos Nisasa Avram Avinu. Avinu had 10 Nisyonos. We know Asor Mamoros and Olam Asor Doros Me Avram Anayach. We had the Asor Sedibros. With 10 is a big number. Alpi the Maral Kayadu and Yonah Kedusha for Avram to get the Shleimus he needed about Korchach 10 Nisyonos. And what was the very first Nisayan? Rashi Rabbeinu Yonah Alpi Perkin Lazar Kivshan Eish thrown Ayadei Nimrod into the fiery furnace. That's in Chazal. It's Meruma Zayin Chanami or custom at the end of Parshas Noach. But when you open up the Chumash, what's the very first Nisayan of Avram Avinu? Tahaina, what represented the Nekudas Haschola of the Gadlus of Avram Avinu, writes the Rambam in his Perish on Avos, Perkei Mishnah Gimel, the very first Nisayan, Dahainu, that appears openly, overtly on the pages of the Heilige Torah Kedosha, is Lech Lecha, Dahainu, what? Be on the move, be on the go. Lefinius Daiti, it's so Geshmak. Because the essence of the Gadlus of Avram Avinu reintroduced monotheism to the world, who started Avoseinu HaKadosh, and Brochus Tasayin Abezei Korn Avosola L'Shlosha, who started off Yiddishkeit, the Rosh Hashanah, you know the Nekudas HaGalus, the Nekudas HaSchola. He is first and foremost a Holech. He is a Lech Lecha. Where's he going? It doesn't make enough Gemina. I don't even need to know. Lech Lecha where? Ela Art Asher Eka. Tahainu, because it doesn't make enough Gemina where he's going. The Nekuda is, I want you to be on a journey in life. You're always a Lech Lecha. You're always a Holech. And let's fast forward to the third parsha from the end. Vayelech Moshe. Where is he going? Fragt all the Mefarshim. Havayelach Moshe, it doesn't tell us, fill in the blanks, Torah Kedosha. Teretzis, it doesn't make enough Gemina. The Nakud is Vayelach Moshe, even B'sof Yomav, in the last day of his life. Moshe Benu is Vayelach, he's going, where's he going? Doesn't make enough Gemina. Lo Chpatli, you know what I need to know? All I need to know is Vayelach Moshe, he's still Shteiging, he's still growing. Avramino began, Klal Yisrael, Lech Lecha, Moshe Benu finishes B'sof Yomav, Vayelach Moshe, where's Avram going, where's Moshe going? Chleisnish, I have no idea. And it doesn't make enough Gemina, not one iota of a difference. The Nakud is, Avram was a Holech, Moshe Benu was a Holech. And thus writes Rav Yaakov Katina. And two places in his Gavaldig Sefer Korban Ani, both in the beginning of Nitzavim and Ochamol, yet again in the beginning of Vayelech. We have the off the joining. We have 7 groups of Parshios that oftentimes are grouped together. And one of them, the last one, of course, Nitzavim Vayelech, not coincidentally, writes the Korban Ani, Rav Yaakov Katina, to draw out the contrast of what Moshe Rabbeinu was rebuking, was giving a beautiful Musa Shmuz. The Sof Yomov, on the last day of his life, he turns to Klal, says, Rabbi Sai, yes, we have Rashi's Pirushim and Atam Nitzavim, but adds the Korban Oni. Atam Nitzavim, Rabbi Sai. You're Nitzavim, you're Omdim, you gotta grow, you gotta steig. Moshe, in contrast, Vayelach Moshe. Atam Nitzavim, the Umas, Vayelach Moshe, he's on the move, he's on the go. And why is that as Musa Shmuz? Because there was one person in history who challenged Moshe Rabbeinu more than any other person. And that, of course, was Korach. What was Korach's taina? Korach turns to the Heilige Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, Moshe, Kol ha'edo kulam kadoshim. We all stood collectively at the Pimat of Sinai, and we were all kadoshim. We don't need you. What is hidden beneath the surface of Korach's taina? Rabbi say kulam kadoshim loshen hove. That's not Klal Yisrael. We are charged with the mandate of kadoshim to you. Loshen osid, the hainu highlighting the future tense. He said kadoshim to you. Korach says we don't need to steig. Oh, we don't need to grow. We all stood together at Sinai. We all stood at the base of our Sinai, and we were privy to the Shechina. I was bibechinas v'yedatem ke'ani Hashem lokechem. We got to heilige madregas gevaldik sheva gevaldik. We don't need to grow. We don't need to steig. Kulam kadoshim. We attained a lofty status of holiness, of sanctity. We don't need to grow. We don't need to steig. Eibishter says, Korach, you got it all wrong. And one, in fact, is the punishment of Korach. He's going to get buried in the ground. No growing, no steiging. And all the 250 who joined with Korach, get what? Get an Aish. Why? Because Korach, Loshen Kerach. Ice, you put things in the freezer and you freeze them. What does that do when you put them in the freezer? It preserves them, maintains the status quo. You put things in the freezer in Kerach, it leaves it exactly the way it is. Rabbi said, what's the deal? We got to send down a fire. We got to send down an Aish and burn up the ice that Korach enveloped those 250 in. Korach says, Kulam Kadoshim. Eibishter says, Korach, you're messing up. It's not Kulam Kadoshim Loshen Hova Fakir. It's Kadoshim Tihiyu Loshen Osid. It's V'yisem Kadoshim. Yes, you got to a Geshmak Gevaldig level of Kedusha. Never be satisfied. You got to keep growing. You got to be Shteiging. However many Shiurim, Ergen Shiur, Etara Gevaldig, Shiur after Shiur. Arabai say it ends. It never ends. It never ends. You finish a Masechta, what do? You go right away back to the beginning. Zakta Sam Seifers Chedushim in the end of Bracha Samadella Nominal. What's the Iker Simcha V'siyum? Not stop finishing. Yes, when you start a Masechta, Rachai Kneska used to say, Gemor. Why finish? They asked Rachai, why would you tell everybody to finish? He says, what do you mean? It's a Mefurish Yerushalmi in Rosh Hashanah, Perek Aleph Alachadalit. Someone who is Maschil b'malacha, Omrim lo Gemor. What malacha? We're talking about a Ruchniistic malacha. Somebody begins a Masechta, Omrim lo Gemor, you got to finish. And then when you finish, what does anyone do when you get to a milestone? Gevaldig, now I can rest, now I can go on vacation. Now I can go to Florida. That's it, I finished all Ergen Shiurei Torah. I still got a week before. So we're at Elul, Rabbi Sai. We never stop. Oh, vacation. There's no vacation. Vacation was still Shteiging on vacation. You get to the end of Masechta, you go right back to the beginning and you start again. We all know the Gemara Chagiga, the middle of Testament base, based on the Pasuk of Malachi Gimel. That ain't a doma misha shown a pirko mea palmim. A misha shown a pirko mea palmaveacha. The big difference between an Oved Elokim la asher lo avado. Ben Hey says to Hillel, what's pshat? What's the difference? 100 versus 101 makes all the difference in the world. Can you do with the Kleyakor and the Pasuk and the Vilna Gaon? And as Adar Salio, we know Zohar is Gematria 227, Shachach 328. The difference between Zohar and Shachach is 101. Asher Misha Bolakan v'Tamud B'Yoda B'Basra Daf Yud Asher Misha Bolakan Gematria 101. Chida Perkid Gimel and his Kisei Racham Manosar Nosan Torah Tziva Lana Moshe. How much? Tziva Gematria 101. It all comes down to the big number 101. Shekenim Neshigas Piyu and Shir Shirin. Perakala Posik Base Shekenim Neshigas Piyu Pei Yud Hey Vav Gematria 101. Shir Lamalos May Ayin Yavo Esri. Where it's going to come from? May Ayin Gematria 101. Writes the Arizal Bopa Rabbeinu Ephraim Parshas Kisisa. In the Horus, the Malach Mamuna on Shichacha is Mas, Gematria 100. The Malach Mamuna on Zikaron is Michael, Gematria 101. Hine Anuch Shalech, Malachi, Michael 101. That's who we remember all learning. Yeshekenim Meshikas Piyu, Ashim Yishabol Lekan. We have Me'ayin Yator Tziva, Zachar and Shalchach 100. What's the difference between 100 and 101? Zokta Vurnaman, 100 is a Geshmaka round number. It's a minyan of mispar mesuyam. I got to 100. That's it. Azachisi, I'm done. I chazed the Masechta. You did your daf yomi, you did your amud yomi, you did your raisa, kini Masechta gewaldig, and you chazed it the mamash not just 4 times. Erev and noon, dalet amud beis, 5 times in Shas. You have tanamini abon zinim v'damedei command man chabekisa megillah daf zayin 5 times in Shas, and then of course chagiga tes amud beis. It's really 101. So Chaim Volozhin asked his Rebbe, if I get to 101, then I'm good to go. I'll remember it forever. He says, no, that's the beginning. So shalot tishtakach meira. You won't easily forget it. But kol yoma ba'amad b'hasakai. So you got to chaz away more. Shagasari made a siyum one time. His wife said, you never make siyumim. Why are you celebrating? He says, zu palma elef. This is time number 1,000. 1,000. No chalisha sedas here, Rabbi say tonight. We had Gedolim 1,000 times. Ramosha 400 times Shas on his fingertips. So what's the Nimo number 101? Explains Overnim and Tzichas Levi. 101 says, I'm never done. Nobody does something 101 times. I'll do it 10, 20, a nice, beautiful, round number. Sweet, 100, I got to that milestone. Let me take it easy now. Let me go on a trip to Florida. Let me relax a bit. So no, you got to 100. What do? Take it from beyond instantly. You go to 101. What's 101? 101 says, I'm never done. I finish, I start right away. You know, Masechta begins with Daf Aleph. It begins with Daf Beis. When I finish, you go right away to the next Masechta. Zechta Sam Sefer, that's what we're celebrating. You're not celebrating the seam of a Masechta. You're celebrating that right away. You get to start another Masechta. That's Klal Yisrael, because we're never done. We're never Messiah. Every moment, every time we're Messiah. Right away we start the new Haskalah. Because a Yid is never done. A Yid never stops Shteiging. A Yid is never doing nothing. Even when the Yid is walking on a street in Florida on vacation, Lahavdil Eretz Yisrael, you're thinking about Torah, you're thinking about Avodas Hashem, you're thinking about Tikkun Amidas, you're thinking about how to be a better husband, a better father, a better son. You're thinking about something Benogei Avodas Hashem Yisbarach. A Yid is never idle, is never motionless. Avram Avinu taught us that. Lech lecha. Just keep going, just keep moving. That's the first nisayon of Avram Avinu. Moshe Rabbeinu leaves us. Vayelech Moshe. Doesn't matter where he's going. He's on the move. He's on the go. He's always growing and he's always steiging. Korach says, status quo. That's not the Malach. And thus I heard a great vart years ago. Avram Avinu starts Klal Yisrael. He's the first Holech. And he has a nephew by the name of Lot. And Lot says, I don't want to be in the vicinity and proximity to my illustrious uncle Avram Avinu. I'm going to go down to Sodom. And he leaves Avram Avinu. Why? He doesn't want to be a Holech. The Malach comes down and says, B'schus your choshev uncle Avram, I will save you and family. Don't look back. Look back says, I'm going to go to Sodom. I don't want to grow. And what happens? Ashes Lot turns into an Etziv Melach, Rabbi Eytan. Why a pillar of salt? It's a machlekes in the Taisus HaSholem. And Rav Aji Bar Tanura, when he visited Eretz, do we actually know where the pillar of Ashes Lot is today? Machlekes Rishonim. Whatever tour guide tells you when you go visit Sodom, oh, that's Ashes Lot, we do not know. How we don't know? Somebody told me once he was taking a tour of Japanese tourists on a tour of the old city, and his friend called him on his cell phone and said, Yaakov, don't bring them to the Kotel. The Kotel right now is mobbed. There are thousands of people. They'll never get up to the wall. He says, just find a nice wall in the Jewish quarter. These Japanese, they've never been to the Kotel. He takes them over to a nice wall in the Jewish quarter. He says, this is the Wailing Wall. They run over. They're kissing all these Israeli natives. Are looking at a bunch of Japanese. They're kissing Stama Wall in the Jewish quarter. They're taking pictures of Stama Wall. And we don't know Ashes Lo. The tour guy, there's Ashes Lo. We don't know. But wouldn't it be a Geschmack touring site if it was a salt shaker? There's Ashes Lo, the salt shaker. She's not a salt shaker. She's a pillar of salt. And why salt? Why not a pillar of pepper? And why not ginger? Why not cinnamon? Why was Sodom destroyed with salt? It's so Geschmack, Rabbi say. Just like ice is a preservative. What was the ultimate preservative before ice was invented? Before we had freezers. Salt is a preservative. Over 14,000 uses. Amar Kalinsky wrote a book called Salt, The World History. 14,000 plus uses of the compound NaCl, sodium chloride, each one destructive in its own right. You merge them, you fuse them together. That's salt. What does it do? Preservatives. It's an equilibrium. It keeps things the way they are. They used to put meat into salt, and it keeps it the way it is. What's Sodom? Eibishter Kaviyachol, look at that Chochma El Yaina. Eibishter turned Sodom into a city of salt. Why? They don't want to grow. They don't want to steig. That's the antithesis of Avraham Avinu. As the first, the ultimate Hailech. You want to be in Sodom, what are you going to get? You're going to turn into salt. Rabbi say you can't grow anything in salt. Nothing grows in salt. Because if you're in Sodom and you don't want to grow, and you're the opposite of Avraham Avinu, the first Hailech, the Mina Kenegah, what happens? Your whole city is destroyed with Sodom. Disenabling, there's no Koach HaTzmicha, Mekan Haba. You can't grow anything in Sodom. Oh, by the way, there's only one parsha after the destruction of Sodom that will ever mention Sodom again. Which parsha is that in? Oh, you got it, Givaldik. Nitzavim, how appropriate. Nitzavim, Ata Nitzavim. Nitzavim, status quo. She's not a salt shaker, she's a pillar of salt. What's a pillar of salt? A Nitziv. Nitziv Melach, Ata Nitzavim. Rabbi Yaakov Katina, Netziv, Omdim, she stays the same way. She is salt, a preservative, and she's a pillar, a stagnant, idle, motionless pillar of salt. Not a salt shaker. She is salt, she's not shaking, she's not moving, she's not growing. She's idle, she's motionless. And the Phineas Daiti, take a look at Perek Elazar and Perek Chafei. It says that every night the Shvarim, the oxen, emerge from the forest. They emerge and they come and they lick off the pillar of salt known as Eishes Lot. The oxen come out and they actually lick up the salt from the pillar of Eishes Lot. And every night, miraculously, it regrows and replenishes itself. Why? Why are Chazal being megala that? Lefinius daiti geschmack. Because Sodom is stagnancy, idle, motionless. No koach hatzmicha and salt. Salt itself is a preservative and maintains status quo. She's not a salt shaker. She's a pillar of salt. And it's nitzavit. She is salt, a preservative. You can't grow anything in salt. And what's the hashlama satikun? The oxen will come out. They'll lick off the salt and it will regrow itself. Koach hatzmicha. As the hashlama satikun of Eishes Lot, who wasn't interested in growing, now it's going to regrow itself because life is about growth. Life is about tzmicha. It's about evolving. It's about growing, is about Shteiging. That's the contrast of Avraham Avinu to Lot. And then we move on to Parshas Beshalach. Let's meet up with the Torah Kadosha on the end of Beshalach, Perek Zayin, Pasuk Yud Aleph. And for this, we open up Rav Dov Elias, Gavaldik Sefer, Peninim Mishulchan Gavoa, quoting the Kovna Rav Zalman Sen, the Kahana Shapiro. And what a geschmack, a diak in the Pasuk. It says, by Machemes Amalek, in the context of the war against Amalek, the Hayek Asher Yor Moshe Yodav over Yisrael. What should we expect should be the opposite of that? And when he would be mashbil, when he would lower his hand, then Amalek would emerge victorious. That's not what the Pasuk says. Kasher hiniach es yadav. Zog the Kovna Rav. When Moshe uplifted his hands, Klai Yisrael would emerge victorious. Yes, Rosh Hashanah Chavtas Haman Aleph v'chiyadav shamayim osas machama oshos machama elik shayim estakon kapei shmaya u'mashamdim as libel neshamayim. When he uplifted, elevated his hands, Klai Yisrael emerges and they vanquished their Amalekite opponent. And the opposite ought to have been when Moshe would lower his hand. That's not what Azoy state is what Kashari Niach when he led it to rest. Zok to come to Rav, because if you're not going up, willy nilly bakarchas, you're going down. And that's the Yesod of the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon, Kayadua, the Velt knows the Geshmak Gra in Mishlei, 1524, Perek Tesvav Pasuk Chav Dalet, where the Gra says that because of the ubiquitous presence of the Yetzer Hara, he's always breathing down our neck, he's always trying to get you to sit. And if you're not growing and you're not steiging them, you're going down. There's no such thing in Ruchnius. What do you mean? I went to the Mir, I went to Brisk. I did my 2 years, my 3 years in Etzisol. I sat in Kolel. I was Yaitse Zayin. There's no Yaitse. I did my learning in the morning. I'm good to go for the day. A Yid is never done. You got to 100 right away, you go to 101. Whenever you finish, you continue to grow, you continue to steig. If you put your hands at rest, then v'gover Amalek. Then the Oyev, the enemy, emerges the victor. But if you live a life, your hands are always on the move, always on the go, always creating new Maaseh Yadayim. You're learning, you're growing, you're Shteiging. And then you always can destroy a Molech. Say a Molech said it's hara, but you got to be growing. If you rest a little too much, a little too long, then the Gavra Molech, then a Molech walks away the victor. Always have to be growing. Always have to be Shteiging. And also, let's head to Masechah Sukkah Daf Mem Hey Amud Beis. And the Gemara there relates that Rav Shimon ben Yochai, the Heilige Tana, the Tana Eloki, declares, Reisi b'nei Aliyah u'mu'aten. There are a few b'nei Aliyah. If there are about 1,000 b'nei Aliyah in the world, my son and I are counted amongst them. And Meyahain, if there are 100, Nacham all the same minion, then my son and I are counted amongst them. Vim Shnayim Haim, and if there are only 2 b'nei Aliyah in the entire world, Ani u'banai Haim. Half of a fella. The boy say, this is the Heilige Tana, Rav Shimon ben Yochai. And he gets up in the base medrash one day, Sukkah, in the middle of Memhayim and base. And he says, Chever Abaisai, I'm looking around in the world, and I see there are so few b'nei Aliyah. If there are 1,000, I'm counted amongst them. 100, same thing. And if there are only 2 b'nei Aliyah in the world, my son and I, we are the 2 b'nei Aliyah. How do you understand? Chas v'sholom, it seems to resonate. Feelings of complacency. Chalila v'chas, the Heilige Tana, the Rashbi. Rav Aaron Kohler asked a kasha. I heard the word years ago from a Yosef Tendler of Ner Yisrael, quoting his Rebbe Rabbi Aaron. He talks about the idea, and Chelik Aleph of Mishnah Rabbi Aaron, pages 161 and 164, talks about this idea of perpetual growth, and it's idea that I saw in the Sefer Divrei Yisrael and Yoni Nisu in the Maimer Beis as well. And that is that Avada, there's no shemitz of Gaiva, Chalila v'chas. Rav Shimon Yochai is looking around the world, and he says, Chavra, why is no one Shteiging? Why is nobody growing? I look around the world, and maybe there are only 1,000 people that really want to grow, that really want to Shteig. If there are only 1,000, I don't care if it's the miyut, I'm going to make sure to be counted amongst them. And likewise, if there are about 100 in the world, you're interested in growing and Shteiging, I'm going to make sure my son and I are going to be nimna imam, we're going to be counted amongst them. And if nobody in the entire world and the ganze Welt is interested in growing and Shteiging and getting closer to the Boreola, we don't care what the rest of the world is doing. We have to grow. We have to maximize our potential. And even if no one else in the whole world wants to grow, wants to Shteig, we have our own personal shleimus that we have to maximize. My son and I will forever be Shteiging, perpetual, endless growth on the ladder of Ruchnius of Avodas Hashem Yisbarach. Mechayel achayel la'ela u'la'ela. And thus I share with you now a beautiful ha'ara of the Alter Nevardik in his Madregas Adam Tkufas Noach. It's a well-known machlaikas Rashi at the outset of Parshas Noach. Noach is tzadik tamim haya b'darosav. Zogt Rashi of Hanort al Makom. Yesh merabaseinu shadorshim l'shvach. V'yesh shadorshim l'ganai. Kayadua. A number of Hasidus as far make the beautiful diuk. And then when it comes to darshan l'ganai, Rashi blatantly leaves out the word raboseinu. Yesh merabaseinu shadorshim l'shvach. V'yesh shadorshim l'ganai. You're going to darshan l'ganai, that's not a good tazach. But there are raboseinu that lamaisa darshan l'ganai. Frekt Alter Nevardik in Madregas Adam. How could you darshan l'ganai? Shteit Mefurish, it states explicitly, Noach is tzaddik tamim haya. Targum, Briskerov picks up in the Targum, is a tzaddik gevar shlim. It's a tzaddik sholeh. Zogt Alter Nevardik, the Nekudas HaMachloikes is as follows. The Rav who says, L'shvach says, I look around at a Noach. And Noach looked around in his generation, and he was Rav Shimon ben Yochai. Tahainu, Noach looked at himself and said, nobody wants to grow. It's all chamas, it's all gezel, it's all promiscuity and depravity. And nobody's growing and no one's Shteiging. I have to grow, I have to Shteig. And if he's around an Avram Avinu, who is the ultimate personification of a lechlech, of a holech, that will serve as a further impetus that will inspire him to continue to grow and Shteig even more. That's l'shvach. L'gnai as Losha Noach Menucha. I'm a tzaddik, Noach says. I'm looking around at the generation. I'm not perpetrating the sins, the iniquities that they are. So I'm being Pirish, Lafrushim, Yisura. I'm not modeling my life after their terrible ways, after their wickedness. But Mele, he became a tzaddik. That's the Gnai. Because if you put him around Avram Avinu and he sees other tzaddikim, okay, we have tzaddikim. Okay, they're holding up the world. I don't need to grow. I don't need to steig. Let it be in him. We have the Lamed Vav tzaddikim upholding the world. So let him steig. I don't have to grow. I don't have to steig. That's the machlokes. The Shvach says Noach never stops growing, never stops steiging. And the Gnai says, as long as there are other tzaddikim, Noach lo shemenucha. I can stay the way I am. I don't need to grow, and I don't need to steig. And that's not Yiddishkeit. And Yiddishkeit can't start with such a person. It can only start with an Avram Avinu. And as the Rambam writes, the first nisayon that defines the core essence, the etzam hus of Avram Avinu is alech lecha, to be holech, to be on the move, to be on the go. Now, this is the chiluk between Noach and Avram Avinu, between Avram Avinu and Lot, between Moshe after Nitzam and Vayelech. The Chorah has to have a shorish hadover, and the nekudas hamachlekes between Yaakov versus Esav, and of course it does. The first machlokes between Yaakov and Esav took place where? At the outset of Parshas Toldos, the Torah Kadosh relates, Vayisro tzitzu abana bekirba. Where were they going? They were running. Where are you running to? Life is about running, but Esav is running to a base of Avodah. And in contrast, Yaakov is running to the base Tefillah, to the base Hamedrash. Where are you running? What are you using your aglayim for? Yaakov called Yaakov because he grabs onto the leg of Esav. I have your regel. I have your leg. I own the koach halicha. When Esav sends Soro Shal Esav, the koach of the Psalm, to wage an all-night wrestling match against Yaakov Avinu in Parshas Vayishlach, what does he aim for, Rabbi Say? If you're a malach who is an Itzav, who is an Omeid, and you want to open up a Pesach, create the possibility, the Avshoris that you could bring down a Yaakov, what do you have to do? The first thing you have to do is get him from a Holech to an Omeid. How do you do that? You attack him in his legs. Vayiga b'kaf Yerach Yaakov. He got him in his legs. Homachlokas, the Dorei Doros of Yaakov versus Esav is, what are you doing with the Koach HaRaglayim? Who owns the Koach HaRaglayim? Vayiga b'kaf Yerach Yaakov. I'm going to get you in your regel. Yaakov, you got me in my regel. Achaz be'ekev Esav. Who's holding on to whose Raglayim? And let's go to the story of Purim, Rabbi Sai. Oh, what happens Purim? Let's go to the Targum Sheni. Mordechai and Haman were once working for Achashverosh, and they ran out of food. And Mordechai saves Haman's life, and he has him write a star that you'll be my Eved. Where does he have him write the star? On the bottom of his foot. I own you, Haman, on the bottom of my foot. Haman is the one person in Tanakh who insisted on everybody bowing down to him. What's bowing down all about? What's Kriya Nishtachavoya? When you bow down to someone else, you're divorcing yourself of your Koach Amida Baraglayim, and you're prostrating, bowing down to someone else's Koach HaRaglayim. Dahainu, who owns the Koach HaRaglayim? And when Haman has an idea, I want Mordechai to walk me all around town. I want to rest on the mighty, powerful sus of Achashverosh, and Mordechai is going to use his feet to walk me around town. Oh, and by the way, let's come up with a scheme to rid the world of Mordechai. How are we going to kill Mordechai? Death by hanging. What is death by hanging? Give a person an Amida Baraglayim, put a noose around the neck, and then take him off the chair. Remove the platform, get rid of his Koach Amida Baraglayim. The whole Machlokes of Purim of Yaakov and Esav. Of Alpi the Arizal, Haman a Gilgal of Esav. Mordechai a Gilgal of Yaakov. Yaakov bowed down to Esav in Parshas Vayishlach. Mordechai, the tikkun, the rectification. Lo yichro v'lo yishtachaveh. Mordechai says, I'm not bowing down. I'm not going to give up my Raglayim to bow down to your Raglayim, Haman. Instead, what happens? V'nahapachu. The whole story of Purim is Hu HaPur, Hu HaGoral, spelled Gimel Reish Lamed. Purim is all about V'nahapachu. So Rabbi said, let's do exactly that. Let's be Mahapich, the letters of Goral. And what do you get? Goral, Regel. The whole Machlaikis of Purim is who owns whose Raglayim. The Tikkun, the Phineas Tides, Haman's going to use his Raglayim to walk Mordechai all around town as my Raglayim sit ever comfortably on the powerful Raglayim of the Sus Achashverosh that walks me around town. And Haman is going to be hanged on the tree. What's the tree? Hanging. No Koach Amida B'Raglayim. Haman will bow down to Esther at the end of the story. Who owns whose Raglayim? The whole machlokes historically of Yaakov versus Esav. It began Vayisrotetzu Loshen Ritza B'Raglayim. Who's holding on to whose leg? And it actualized itself like never before in the story of Purim. Who owns whose legs? Haman, I own you. I'm going to ride it on the bottom of my foot. You're going to walk me around town with your feet. And you're going to be hanged on the tree, getting stripped of your Koach Amida B'Raglayim. Pur, Hu HaGoral V'nahapachu. Who has the Koach HaRaglayim? That's what life is all about. Where are we going, Rabbi Sai? Where are we Shteiging? And thus we conclude tonight with Avram Avinu. He started Yiddishkeit, and he brought us to where we are today, the Rosh of our Emunah B'Hashem Yisbarach. And he finished it off with Akedas Yitzchak, the last Nisayan, at least according to the list, of Rashi and the Rambam and their respective Pirushim of Anort, and Pirkei Avos, Pirkei Mishnah Gimel. But Rabbeinu Yonah doesn't write Akedas Yitzchak has no Nisayan number 10. What a Peladik Rabbeinu Yonah. Everyone is anticipating this final Nisayan of displaying a readiness, a willingness to sacrifice Tachanas Bincha as Yechidcha Shahavta as Yitzchak. And he passes with flying colors. The Malachim, everybody is lined up. Avram Avinu becomes Avram Avinu, Ayadei Akedas Yitzchak. And Rabbeinu Yonah writes, he's not done. Nisayan number 9 is Akedas Yitzchak. But Nisayan number 10, we turn the page at the end of Parshas Vayera. Parach Beis, we get to the end of Vayera and we're about to turn the page and we say, it can't happen again, it happened last year. There's no way, it just can't be. And we turn the page in fear and trepidation. Vayu Shnei Chayei Sarah. And it happens every year. Avram Avinu loses his wife. The Tzadekes of the ganze Welt, 127 years, Kula and Shov and Lataiva. She never sinned. And how does Avram get rewarded when he gets to the apex, the pinnacle of his illustrious career? He passes Akedas Yitzchak, Zok he's not done. Nisayan number 10. As Misas Sari Imenu and Kivuras Sari Imenu. He loses his precious beloved Eishes Chayil. And even that's not enough. He has to secure the appropriate burial plot. And he pays everyone like the Stipler writes. And Berchas Peretz was millions of dollars in that day and age. Millions of dollars to get the Maras Machpelah plot that really indeed belonged to Avram Avinu all along. And he has to deal with Ephron and Rasha. And he has to deal with the death of Sari Imenu. This is the Sar of Avram Avinu. Eibishter, what do you want from him? Lech lecha, kik shana eish. The famine, Nisayan after Nisayan. You're told that paradigmatic Bal Chesed Kaknas Binchas Yechidcha Shahavta. And he passes number 9 with flying colors and he's still not done. Misas Sarah. Kivura Sarah dealing with Ephron. How do you understand such a Rabbeinu Yonah? Which is the Metzias. How do you understand? Well, the Maisa played out. There's only one Hesper L'chaira. The Eibishter was teaching Klal Yisrael the Dorei Doros through his prized Talmud Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu. Life is never over until it's over. You're a holech, you're a lech lecha. And you'll always be steiging. And there's never going to be a point that you could say, I passed the Nisyonos Achayim, that's it, I'm done, I can relax, I can buy my apartment in Florida, let me just take it easy. Oh, I'll learn. No! Life is replete with Nisyonos Achayim. And Eibusher was saying, my dear Avram Avinu, life is never stopping. Yaakov, Bikesh Yaakov Lishe B'Shalva. Miyad, Kafetz Olav Rogzel Shayosef. Shalva and sheket, tranquility and serenity will come when the Eibusher decides it's time to come. But through Avram Avinu, Klal Yisrael is being taught a consequential and monumental lesson for life. That when you think it's over, it's never over. As long as we're alive, the more nisyonos, there's more growth, more opportunities to keep growing and steiging in our avodas Hashem Yisbarach. And thus writes the Sfas Emes, Parshas Emor, and other places. It's a Pliyat Sumai, Yosef HaTzadik. Avayamoin, we know this Gevaldig Avayamoin movement, Shmiras Einayim. All rooted in the Gadlus of Yosef HaTzadik with the Heya Yediyah. Sota Dafyunim and Beis Lav Avram and Beis, he passes in Yisrael with Eishes Potiphar. He becomes the Tzaddik Yesod Olam. Tikkun HaBris, Shmiras HaYesod. People are running after the third Aliyah. Some say, for easy way to remember, Shuas and Rechaim, number 66. Simon Samach Vav, the Iker is the sixth Aliyah. Keneged Yosef HaTzadik. Tikkun HaBris. We had years ago in the White Shul. We had on one Shabbos with Shalom Amar. I was then the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim. And he was in Shabbos with Hershel Shechter, Rosh Hashiva, and Rabbeinu Yitzchak Elchanan. Which one are we going to give Shlishi to? Which one are we going to give Shishi to? Vezmir. It was easy. Why? Rav Hershel Shechter, Ashkenazi. Rav Shalom Amar, Sfardi. So we give the Ashkenazi. Rav Shechter got Shlishi. And Rav Amar got Shishi. Eilu Veilu. Which one are you mad? Efshol L'Kayim Shnei. Six Aliyah, Yosef HaTzadik, Tikkun HaYesod. Suktas Vasemes Vayemoin. He becomes the tzaddik l'dorei doros. The archetype of what tzidkis is all about. And how does he get rewarded for it, Rabbi Isai? Okay, Yosef, into the dungeon you go. Falsely accused. Gets cast into the dungeons, incarcerated without any sentence of 5 years or 10 years. He had no idea how long he was going to be there. Most people who were thrown into the dungeons in ancient Egypt never came out alive. Eibusher, this is the schar of Yosef HaTzadik. He introduced the koach avayimoyin to the Gatzavil, to Darei Doris, and this is how you reward him. Throwing him in with the Sarabashkim, with the criminals of Mitzrayim, this is the schar. Zok Vasemes, this is the schar. And Ovis, Peragdal and Mishnah Beis, Benazai, Mitzvah Goreres Mitzvah, Aver Goreres Avera. And Isayan, Gorer and Isayan. The greatest schar, the best schar of a Yosef. You passed one Isayan. Yosef, I love you so much. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you noch an Isayan. I love you so much, and you passed the first one. I want to be Megadel and Marbi Yischar in the Olam HaEmes. I'm going to give you another Isayan, another opportunity, a golden Efshoris, to get even more schar, to grow even more, to steig even greater as an Eved Hashem. Nisayan, Gora Nisayan. Akedas Yitzchak. Misas, Sora, Ephra. Just when you think you're done. Rabbi say we're never done. That's life. We get to Chodesh Elul, we get to a summer. So maybe we relaxed a bissel. Avada, we tried to learn as best as we could. We tried to be Oved Hashem Yisbarach. And our Avodas Hashem Yisbarach, our Taira, our Tefillah, our Shmir, Sanayim. And we get to the Samaras, and now we're ready to begin. Elul, Mazel Elul, Sefer Yetzirah Perkei, Mazel Besula, Hischachas, a newness, a new beginning. Ani Ladodi Vidodi Li, we're ready to get married to the Eibusher. The Melech is Besoda, will be Mataya with the Melech, Kabiyocha Besoda. Elul, HaRabbi say, okay, we're going to give it a roll. We're going to push like crazy in Elul. We're going to get Berling in the morning for Slichas. We're going to take on Sidon. We're going to take on Kabbalahs. And we're going to start. Eibusher, just get me through the Yom Hadin. That's it. Get me through Rosh Hashanah, Yom Hadin. After that, Sukkah, Zman, Simchasenu. That'll be Geshmak. I'll relax in the Sukkah. And then we're free. Then we can take it easy. Then the year's geschmack. Then we'll chill. We'll relax. We'll get to Hanukkah. Gewaldig. Hanukkah, Moiradik. Everybody loves Hanukkah. And then Purim. Gewaldig. On those sad days, we got Hanukkah, we got Purim, Moiradik. That's not life. Elul sets the stage for the year ahead on Ila Dodi V'Dodi Li. And it's a month of major avodah, of Kabbalahs. Of the Rama Minachos Shuva per Gimel Lachadal Lachem Neyin Yizeh Nelgo Kobesis Ola Harbis V'Tztaka Uvamasim Taivim V'Lasek B'Mitzvahs B'Yom Elu Sharme Kol Yamar Yimei Shar Yimos Hashanah. And we get up in the morning Ashmeira Slichas. And we can't wait. We get through the Yom Adin, no more Slichas. I could sleep a little later. No more shofar blast. I get seized me with fear and trepidation. No more the David Hashem or Revishing and an extra Kaddish. Davening ends 3 minutes earlier. Givaldik. Elul says, I'm never done. I get to the end of the year, I'm ready to begin anew. And Eibishter being machlit, that when I get through the Yom Adin, I'm going to continue to steig. I'm going to go through Yom Kippur. I'm never going to take it easy in my avodas Hashem Yisparach. I'm never going to chill. I'm never going to relax. Yes, there's a time of Bein Hazmanim. The Shlom Masech Shavuos was against the term Bein Hazmanim. What do you mean Bein Hazmanim? There's a Zman to learn in a Zman you don't learn. Bein Hazmanim, Shteiging Yoshua, Perek Aleph Poseches, V'Agisimo Yom V'Layla. It's continuous learning. What do you mean Bein Hazmanim? The Shloh decries. How do you Bein Hazmanim? It's not Bein Hazmanim like Shach writes. It's a Zman. It's a Zman Bein Odom Bein Atzmo. It's a Zman to take it easy a little bit. It's a Zman to take walks, to go swimming, to go a little bike ride, to relax a bissel. It's a Zman that needs some relaxing. But only to energize and reinvigorate and empower you for the Elul that we're in right now, going into the Hischachos of a new year. Eibishter, I'm never going to stop growing. And I'm never going to stop steiging. I'm going to finish off the year Nitzavim Vayelech. I don't want to be Nitzavim. Atem Nitzavim. No, I'm going to be like Moshe Rabbeinu. Vayelech Moshe. Where am I going? It doesn't matter. Vayelech. I'm moving. I'm growing. I'm always moving. I'm always steiging. And I'll always be growing L'mayla, L'mayla. Saying of the Birchas Hedge, we should have the Siyata D'Shmaya. To always be growing in our Yiddishkeit, to always be Emistik and B'nai Aliyah, not just B'nai Torah and B'nos Torah, but to be B'nai Aliyah and B'nos Aliyah. To be Rav Shimon ben Yochai Tekiyidin who say, Re'isi B'nai Aliyah, how many people in the world are really steiging? Eibishter, I'm never going to stop. Anila Dodi. This is what I want. I want the Yachas. I want the relationship. I want a Yom Adin. I want a Yom Kippur. I want some Chasenu. And I'm going to keep growing and steiging through the winter. I'll be Messiah. That a number of years ago I was asked to speak for a certain yeshiva in Florida. And they had the Polar meeting. In the middle of the winter, I said, okay, Gishmak, I'll go down to Florida. Rabbi Feiner, how much do you charge? Just, if it's for a day, you know what? If you could fly my Rebbitzin down, and we'll have 2 days and 1 night. In Florida, in the middle of the winter. New York, we know what it is. Brooklyn, the 5 towns, and the slush, and the traffic, and the honking, and the mud, and the freezing, and the gloves, and the earmuffs, and the hat is blowing in the wind, and your Borsalino gets smashed by 3 cars, and then the mud is splashing all over in the right. And I go down to Florida in the middle of January for 2 days and a night, and it's the middle of the winter, and I leave 5-degree weather, and I go out in the street, and my wife is getting together with a Tommy Da. The next day she says, Eytan, you could go learn. And I say, this is great. And I pick up a coffee and I go to a local base medrash. It's in the middle of January and it's 75, 80 degrees. And Miami, Florida, not a cloud in the sky. I got my cappuccino. I got my Gemara, my Sfarim. It's beautiful. It's geschmack. Of course, air-conditioned base medrash, carpet, oldest Sfarim in the world. It was so geschmack. And I said, you know what? It's beautiful. But this isn't life. Lefum tzara. It's nice to taste it every once in a while. But life is getting dirty. Life is dealing with the mud, and dealing with the golus, and dealing with the anti-Semitism, and dealing with the weather changes, and dealing with the bad news, Rachmana litzlan. And still, Eibishter, I'll never be Maharacham Idaisecha. I won't question you, I'll take it 1 day at a time. Life is growth, life is nisyonos. Life can be difficult. Eibishter, I will never stop growing. I will never stop steiging. I'm only a ger in this world, Gimel Reish, third from the beginning, third from the end. Lech Lecha from the beginning, Vayelech to the end. I'll be like Avram, I'll be like Moshe. I won't be an Eishes Lot and Tziv Melach, a pillar. I want to be shaking, I want to be moving. I always want to be growing, always want to be Shteiging. Why is everybody still sitting still? Let's get up and let's daven Marv with the bread, with the Heslavus, with the Shteiging, with the Shuckling. We'll never stop moving. Hatzlach and bracha get the nacht. And Hatzlach with all the Shteiging. I'd be as called tzedek b'mheir of Yemeinu Amen v'Yemen.
Shem Irgen Shir Termas is busting like a big Ashikachter Rabbi Feiner for the very inspiring drosha. Rabbi to help Irgen Shir Terra keep going and Shteiging and bringing Limud Torah and Shiurim and Arbatz's Torah to the Tzibur and worldwide throughout the year by participating in the Irgen Shir Terra's annual dinner tomorrow night at 7 p.m. on Israel Avenue K. Come and show your support for the Rabbanim and the organization who's bringing these Shiurim to you and many Shiurim to the Tzibur and the communities worldwide throughout the year. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Avenue K and East 29th. Due to space limitations, the dinner is for men only. You can still try to get a last-minute add-in. Call Irgen Shir Torah 718-853-3950 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. I'd like to thank Moses Boston, Moses the Rebbe Shlita, for hosting the Shiurim, and all the Askanim who helped throughout the summer, the Kimmel family and the Weiss brothers. Shekach to everyone. Shekach to everyone for coming. I'd like to big Shekach to Moshe Klein for sponsoring tonight's Shir, the Nishmas Oviv, Rabbi Shober Moshe Menachem Zechon Levracha. Your outside is tonight of Avel, Tenish Boston Shur B'Tzorah Chaim. I'd like to big Shekach to Mr. and Mrs. Aaron Grenadier for their support for tonight's Shir, the Nishmas Isha Masha, Pasha Baron Al Sholem, and the Nishmas Rabbi Yisrael Yitzchak Isaac Ben Yeshua Olav Sholem. Gesivach Simatay, very good Ben Shioya, Shekach to everyone for coming. And Chananya Ben Akash, Emma Rotzak, Kadosh Baruch Hu Lezakis, as Yisrael Afiga Hibbelim Torah Mitzvah Shenem Adonai Chofes Aman Tzidkoi, Yagdol Torah V'Yadeh.